Hello and welcome to a new tutorial. As a little warning to you all, today's tutorial is a bit more complicated. As you might be able to see behind the menu here, it is making use of redstone. Yes, it is, and it's got a few little various mechanics to it. So what this is it's a kind of countdown timer, and what it does is each time it counts down it gives you a little audible cue via this note block, and eventually after a while it triggers the output here, and then it also contains a shut-off feature here, so that once the output has been triggered you're not getting a constant of pistons. Let's just set this off so that we can see what we have. Now it's probable that you won't be able to hear the note block, so I'm going to try and stand near so that we can see the graphic, just so you know I'm not telling porkies. So there we go, we set off the minecart and there's the note block graphic. There goes the TNT. And there we go. So that's your countdown timer. Everything stops once it's completed, and there we go. I reckon that this is probably a good tool for any of you map makers out there. This particular timer used 9 gravel blocks, and it lasts, according to my stopwatch anyway, about 17 seconds for these 9 blocks. So now let's look at the various mechanics that we have going on here. First of all, here we have a minecart redstone clock. What happens is once we set the minecart going from here, it starts looping around this track, and then when it hits this detector rail, obviously it carries on and keeps looping and keeps hitting the detector rail. But when it does, it causes this piston here to push a block out, and this piston here to retract and then extend again. When the gravel comes out to here, it powers this repeater, if I just put one there, which sends the current through, and then it activates the note block here. This is a pulse limiter. Whereas your normal button press, for example, is a couple of seconds, this will reduce it to far less than that. So if we have a look at this here, see if you can spot the redstone wire pulse. You see? It only went off for a fraction of a second. Like that. And that means that we get the regular pattern. Because what happens is the piston pushes the block out, then it retracts, and then the note plays. Boom, 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 like that. And it's just a kind of regular pattern, I guess, just to kind of mark the seconds. That is why the block here retracts, because as these blocks get pushed further along, the pulse, sorry, not the pulse, the current remains on all of the time. See, if I set this going here, just as it, fine. So as you can see, this repeater never turns off. So by retracting this piston, we're temporarily cutting the power here, and that means that we are able to keep on generating the note over there. So what happens is this block gets pushed along to here, and then the other gravel blocks fall, because as we can see, gravel is affected by gravity. You can use sand as well if you want to, but gravel was just easier to see in this environment. So each block gets pushed along like this until it reaches here, where the repeater powers the block, transferring the current through it, and that powers our output, in this case the TNT. And then finally it gets pushed over to here, and this wire just runs all the way round over to this track, which switches it so that when the cart completes its final loop, instead of looping back around again, it goes back up to where it started, and that stops these pistons from firing, meaning that the countdown stops. We haven't got any more notes going, and we haven't got any more from the pistons. So it shuts itself off when the countdown is completed. Potential uses for this, I believe, probably lie best, if that makes sense, because it doesn't really, within custom maps. If you're building a map, for example, and there's a room where you only have a certain amount of time to escape, you could probably build a device like this and then stretch the redstone wire a bit further out to the note blocks so that you haven't actually got the pistons firing. All you can hear is the burp, 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 because I think sounds stop being heard when you're like 16 blocks away. I don't know for definite. So you could have the piston 16 blocks away and then the note block right near the player or something like that. Maybe a treasure room where they've got a certain amount of time to get in, get the treasure and get out again. Stuff like that perhaps. Of course the output doesn't have to be TNT, it's just I thought that was probably the easiest one to go with. Generally speaking, for timing purposes, the cutoff point needs to be after a 1 block gap, as you can see here. That way, if you're using TNT, it does. So TNT goes off, then you have that gap, and then after just long enough, the TNT explodes, and at the same time, the device shuts off. If you're using a different output, however, then you might need to configure it better if you want that kind of synchronicity. But if we look over here, you'll notice that I've dug a slight trench, which basically acts as a way of configuring it. You can make it longer by setting it up like this, so I've just made it 5 blocks longer, which should mean that it's about 10 seconds longer. But obviously as well, pistons can push up to 12 blocks, so theoretically you could have like 10 blocks. So you could have 10 blocks, and then on the 10th block you could have your output, and then follow it up with this or something. So you can get quite a decent length on this. So whereas I said last time it was 17 seconds, if I get my stopwatch now and we set it off, we can see how long it is now. So 3, 2, 1. Because what's happening here is each time a block gets pushed along, it falls down into the hole. So it's taking longer to reach the output. And there we go. I didn't stop the timer in time, but it's about 28 or 29 seconds. So yeah, not quite double the amount of time, obviously, but you know, from 17 we added on just over 10 seconds by digging a 5 block wide trench, which I think is pretty cool. Okay, so how do we build this? First of all, let's start with the minecart system. So we have this here with an unpowered rail there and a regular rail there. Then we have a new rail there, and we're probably better off putting it like that. These are going to be powered rails along here, and these are our regular ones, and then a detector rail there. Just put a bit of dust there and a redstone torch there. You can also put the minecart down if you want to. Next we want a piston here facing horizontally, and then we want to dig down underneath like this so we can put some wire in, and then we want a block here with a torch on this needs to come just a little bit further back actually. My apologies. So, like this, block here, with a torch, and then a sticky piston with a block on it. Then in here we have ourselves a redstone torch, and then a repeater goes there. Then we have a bit of dust, then a block with some dust on, and a torch, and then we want two repeaters, one here with no delay, and one here with I think that's 3, so 1 delay, 3 delay basically. Then just link those together with another bit of wire, and then you put your note block on, and depending on what sound you want depends on what block you put underneath. We're just going to use a knocking thing for now. Next we need to set up the distance we're going to travel, so we're just going to have a couple of blocks here, not too many. Then under here we're going to put a torch. Yeah, that's fine, that can work. On the design over here I've actually had it so that it powers it like this. However, you can also do it like this, where as soon as a block comes over it, it will power all of this and give us our output, which in this case will be a redstone lamp. We'll put it on the other side. Oops. Oh, God. And then, just a little bit further ahead, we want another torch with wire leading over to our track, like that. And once we've put the pushing blocks in, excuse me, we're ready to go. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And when we set it off, everything should work. There goes the lamp. And there we go. Job done. If you missed any of it, I realise I was quite quick, it's because I've got to go out soon. If you've missed any of it, then do feel free to re-watch the video. And there's a mistake here, that should be on no delay. I don't know why that did have a delay. Anyway, that is how to build it. There we have it, I guess. Like I say, as far as I know, there isn't any other kind of design like this. I'm sure there's some similar, but I haven't seen any. So, yeah, there we go. Here is my countdown timer type thing. Yeah. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something. We'll see you in the next one. Don't know what it'll be or when it'll be, but it will be something. So, yeah, enjoy that.